It is somewhat surprising. Yes, Indra Nooyi was the CEO for 12 years, one of the longest serving in the entire food and beverage industry. And yes, the company did quietly promote Ramon LaGuarta in September of last year to president, but Nooyi hasn't indicated that she is going anywhere. And that question now is creating some speculation for investors and in the analyst community that maybe the company is interested in making some strategic changes. First, what comes to mind? Potentially refranchising its bottlers or spinning off the bottlers, something that its competitor Coca-Cola is doing successfully right now and is being rewarded in the market. Remember, one of Nooyi's first missions and objectives as CEO was taking over the bottlers. So the fact that she is going to be stepping down in October is fueling some hopes in the investor community that that may be a change the company is willing to make. And then broader speaking, the big strategic question would be, is PepsiCo going to think about splitting up the business? It's Frito-Lay and it's Pepsi. It's a snack business and a beverage business. It's something that investor Nelson Peltz brought up years ago, pushed to split the business. Nooyi won that battle, though Peltz actually won a board seat that he still has. He's exited his $2 billion stake, but I did just get a comment from Nelson Peltz of Trian. He says, Trian has appreciated its constructive engagement with Indra Nooyi over the years and warmly congratulates her on a strong decade-plus of corporate leadership at PepsiCo. We wish her all the best. So a truce was made a few years ago when it comes to Peltz and Nooyi, but there are still questions about the business and whether they would be open to a split, despite the somewhat smooth internal transition of corporate leadership. The other point I would make, guys, is that Mr. LaGuarta's big challenge is going to be turning around the beverage business. It has underperformed its competitor, Coca-Cola, in the last 4 quarters. It's seen declining sales, and that's going to be the big challenge. On the last earnings call, Indra Nooyi says we know what needs to be done on that front, and we are doing it. We talked to Hugh Johnston, the CFO. He said they're going to ramp up the advertising spend to turn it around. But that's going to be one of the biggest objectives, turning around Diet Pepsi, which was never quite reformulated right to appeal to younger consumers, and to turn around the beverage business. And Carl, I know you brought up the point that this is part of an overall trend in the food and beverage industry. It's been stunning. Completely new lineup of faces leading this industry. Just in the last 2 years, we've seen new CEOs of Kellogg, General Mills, Tyson, Nestle, Hershey, J.M. Smucker, Hormel, Dean Foods, and PepsiCo's 2 main competitors on the beverage side, Coca-Cola, and on the snack side, Mondelez, all with new CEOs. So this is part of a bigger trend as the food industry has seen a number of big changes, consumers opting healthier, something Indra Nooyi was out front on, but continues to figure out how to reformulate the portfolio to address the consumer needs.
It's an amazing graphic, Sara. You might have heard our discussion with Jim earlier this morning about Indra's willingness to fight back any argument that the company should be broken up, and whether or not LaGuarta thinks differently or not. Do we know?
We don't know. We do know that he's been inside PepsiCo for the last 22 years. He's only the 6th CEO in the history of the company, and the history of this company is going internally for CEOs. So because of his appointment there, it would suggest that it's going to be a continued strategy fit. The company is also emphasizing LaGuarta's international experience. He served as CEO for Europe and Sub-Saharan Africa. He also led the Eastern European region. But I will say there have been questions over the years about leadership at this company. A few high-profile departures within the company over the last few years, including Brian Cornell, who went and led Target, Zain Abdallah, who was the president, widely seen as the next CEO successor, because Nooyi had stayed on for so long, 12 years. And part of that was her fight and ultimately proving that Pepsi is better as one company for beverages and snacks. There's no indication that that's going to change, but of course, with a new CEO comes all sorts of questions about the company's strategic leadership, especially with one of those businesses, as I mentioned, suffering.